So, good morning, family survivors, Governor Sununu, the New Hampshire Attorney General Famella, fellow officers, distinguished guests, and I want to wish you all a good morning. I'd like to just mention this morning, he's going to be very angry that I do this, but this memorial behind us looks beautiful, and the reason it looks beautiful is because we have some dedicated staff at the Department of Administrative Services who are scattered amongst you today in work clothes that help me every year set this up, tear it down. They plant these beautiful flowers that you see here every year, and they maintain this memorial for us throughout the season. And the interesting thing, this year I showed up to check on this and to clean it, and I ran into Marty Schmidt, who is the supervisor here, on Thursday morning because I was concerned about the frost. I was afraid we lost our flowers. We didn't lose our flowers because Marty and a teammate of his came down here at 2:30 in the morning and covered those flowers for us. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that they went the extra mile for us. They do that for you and for us, and I really appreciate that extra effort. Now I would ask everyone to stand so that we can start today's proceedings. As you can see, that's not very easy to do. I think the sergeant did an outstanding job getting them in there in order this morning for us. So my name is Kevin Jordan. I'm the current chief of the Law Enforcement Division at the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department, and it's also my distinct personal honor to serve as the president of the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Association. On behalf of the association, I would like to welcome all of you here today to the 31st Annual New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Ceremony. I would now ask you to please remain standing for our opening procession, which we've had, and the presentation of the colors. Now I would ask Olivia to join us to sing the national anthem for us.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated now for the reading of the Old Glory poem presented to us this morning by Sergeant Craig Emery of the Merrimack County Department of Corrections.
Good morning. I am the flag of the United States of America. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutes of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident, I am arrogant, I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer, and I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved. And I am feared. I stand courageously with those who serve in law enforcement as they protect and serve the citizens of this great country. I have fought every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the deserts of Africa, the cane fields of the Philippines, Guam, Okinawa, Japan, Korea, and Vietnam, and a score of other places long forgotten by all but those who served with me. I was there. I led my soldiers. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill in Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired. But my Marines cheered me, and I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country. But it does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped set free, but I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth and stand watch over the new frontiers of space from my vantage point on the moon. I have been a silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle, when I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother or father at the graveside of her fallen son or daughter. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God, long may I wave.
We are once again fortunate this morning to have chaplain from Londonderry Police Department, Jerry Gonzalo, chaplain of, as I said, chaplain of the Londonderry Police Department. He's with us again this morning. I would now ask you to please stand and give your attention to the chaplain as he offers our opening prayer.
Let us pray. Lord, we are gathered here today on this solemn occasion, on this solemn site, with family, friends, and fellow officers to remember our fallen. This is a place of remembrance for our loved ones lost in the line of duty. Their dedication, devotion, and sacrifice will never be forgotten by those whom they served with or their loved ones. This solemn service stands as evidence that they will not be forgotten by Granite Staters or our nation. These officers who gave their lives will forever be remembered and celebrated as beloved officers, sons, daughters, husbands, wives, mothers, and fathers. They have left an indelible mark on those who love them, those whom they served with, and those whom they protected. We must never forget that there is no routine day for law enforcement officers. We must always remember that all law enforcement officers are God's ministers of justice and peacekeepers. May we always be grateful for their life of selfless service. Therefore, O Lord, we ask for your blessing on this service and all those present here today. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
You can be seated now. Family survivors, Governor Sununu, New Hampshire Attorney General John Formella, United States Attorney Jane Young, fellow law enforcement officers, Senator Maggie Hassan, Senator Jeanne Shaheen, Congressman Chris Pappas, Senate President Jeb Bradley, Congresswoman Annie Kuster, Speaker of the House Sherm Packard, and distinguished guests. Thank you for participating in our 31st Annual New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Ceremony. Governor Sununu has designated today as the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Day, a day for us to pause and to reflect on the contributions of all law enforcement officers. Governor Sununu has also ordered our New Hampshire state flag to fly at half-staff throughout this day in remembrance of these fallen heroes who are honored on our memorial wall. Governor Sununu is the 82nd and current governor of the state of New Hampshire. He was elected as governor in 2016 and was sworn into office on January 5th, 2017. He's currently serving in his fourth term. Governor Sununu has worked very hard while here to maintain New Hampshire's high quality of life as one of the safest, healthiest, and most livable states in our nation. We live in ever more dangerous times, and it is comforting to know that we have a governor who is committed to support and who has always shown great respect to all law enforcement and first responders along with their families within our state. We all recognize and respect the ultimate sacrifices these officers inscribed on this beautiful memorial behind me have made for the safety of all of our New Hampshire citizens. It's just as important for all to recognize and respect the unimaginable sacrifices of the families and friends of these brave officers that were made and endured by all of you as survivors. I am very confident when I say Governor Sununu does recognize and respect those sacrifices. He fully understands you have suffered tremendous losses. He is committed to the health and well-being of our citizens and the safety of our communities and all first responders in the future of our state. Governor Sununu has graciously once again accepted our invitation to provide our keynote address at this memorial ceremony this morning. And ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to present to you the Governor of the state of New Hampshire, His Excellency Chris Sununu.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning. Beautiful day. A beautiful day. Days like this can be sad, to be sure, right? We bring the families together at a memorial service, remembering those that gave everything, what that means to the families, what that sacrifice costs families. But it can also be a day to cherish, right? It can be a day to be a good reminder as well about what we're all about, what service is, the different types of service, the different levels of commitment. It's a type of day where it'd be great to come and just remember those who have given everything before. But unfortunately, every year we find ourselves adding a few new names to the wall. I know we have Rory's family here, LP's family. The fact that we all come out. We don't just do it with one family or just the families of the past, but the fact we have hundreds and hundreds of individuals here today, I think sets an incredible example of the state about the value that we place on this level of service. Now, we are a state of service, right? We're a very community-driven state. I travel a lot, as a lot of folks know. I go to these other states and I see how they do it. And it isn't just because we're a small state, because I've been to small states as well. But there is a uniqueness here that I really have to, and I try to always emphasize. And people say, well, what is it about New Hampshire? Why is it you have all these great rankings and all that sort of thing? And it isn't Republican or Democrat. It has nothing to do with politics, right? It has to do with community and service. How we give of ourselves. The expectations we have for others, and therefore the expectations we have to live up to for ourselves. So we'll get to politics just for a brief minute. Everyone thinks, I ran for governor, and everyone thinks my dad got me into politics. And there's a funny story, and it's absolutely true. It wasn't my dad, it was my mom. And it was my mom. I'm number 7 of 8 kids. So what's the best way to protect your interests if you have 8 children? You join the school board, right? And that's how we learned early on. And my dad instilled in us, we'd get dragged to those meetings, right? And my mom would be on the school board. My dad was an engineer, so he joined the planning board. And I'd go to those meetings as a kid, and we'd kind of be in the corner coloring. And you'd see law enforcement there. You'd see other selectmen there. I'd see my friends' parents there. Everybody was there. And my dad really tried to instill in us, he called it tithing your time. You got to give back some way. You have to find your thing. And everyone's thing can be different, right? Become a teacher, become a selectman, join law enforcement, serve in the military, whatever it is, find your thing to give. Because at the end of the day, it is so important that we want to take care of our families, we want to have a good and healthy life, but we also have to remember there's a responsibility that this isn't just about us, right? The job, however we want to define job, our lives, our responsibilities, they're so much bigger than ourselves, right? And we have to carry that. Now, it's easy to lose that in the craziness of our lives, in our everyday lives. We're all so busy, and I think the unfortunate side of that is we tend to take a lot of it for granted. But I'm telling you, when I travel to these other states and I come back, holy cow, do I come back with a sense of gratitude. Now, we're here today to honor law enforcement and their families who have given everything, that ultimate sacrifice. That sacrifice they prayed, knowing that they were giving of their community, that they prayed they would never have to give. And the fact that all of us come out, and not just here, but 1.4 million people in the state today and this week recognize what that sacrifice is. You know, one thing I remind folks, we're also very different. We're one of the only states that has one singular training facility, police standards and training. They train everyone from corrections officers to state police to local law enforcement. And I bring that up because there's a sense that we can't live in our own silos when it comes to law enforcement, right? All these men and women here, they know the background of each other. They know the training that was there. Because when there's an emergency, when there is a call, when there is a risk, they know they can count and have to know they can count on each other with that training and with that service. And so there's an aspect of team, bigger than ourselves. How do we solve this problem? Not how do I, but how do we solve this problem? How do we protect our communities? How do we make New Hampshire the safest state in the country? And we don't do it here in Concord as much as we do it neighborhood to neighborhood, house to house, community to community, town to town, right? And that seamless partnership between local law enforcement and state, even the FBI and the DEA, corrections, our conservation officers, they are all a team. So when we recognize law enforcement, they're all here. They are brothers and sisters, and they know that sacrifice. I mean, so many of us, we take it for granted, right? We get up in the morning, we have our breakfast, we go off to work. We kind of take it for granted we're going to be coming back. Sometimes that doesn't work out for those who have put their lives at risk every single day. Give their lives in the line of duty. It's something amazing. It's something so special. And we're here today and this week recognizing it. But the message I try to carry to everyone is this isn't one day a year, guys. Right? There's a responsibility that we all have 365 days a year to talk about what this is, what that sacrifice is. See all the kids over there? That's what it's about. What are we going to instill in them? The pride of service. And it does come with sacrifice, and it's hard. But that's what it's about, being bigger than ourselves. Challenging ourselves above and beyond what we think we can do. Given that 110, 120% when we think we've exhausted it all and we just want to go home. But it's always about giving more. And in this day and age, it's right now, when you're talking about law enforcement across this country, not so much here in New Hampshire, we carry a real sense of pride for law enforcement because they are our neighbors and we know them. But across the country, law enforcement is under attack. There's no question about that. But we want folks to enter into law enforcement. We want folks to get excited about service, about what they can do, about that reliance that we have on each other. How that's the glue, that sacrifice is the glue. We might not know them by name, but every day they wake up potentially giving their lives for us. They might not know our names, but they don't care. They know they're out there for that community-based solution, for that sacrifice. And the folks we're honoring today give more than almost anybody. They give it all, right? We have our first responders, our firefighters, but today is about law enforcement. They risk everything in all of its forms. So let's remember when we go home, maybe it's a little bit of homework here. It can be a sad day, but let's get proud. Let's get excited that we are the safest state in the country. Let's get excited that we have law enforcement that works, that communities that cherish it, that put it first, that put it up on a pedestal where it belongs. That's an amazing opportunity that you don't see nearly enough across this country right now. But we have that opportunity. We're already the gold standard when it comes to safety. Let's be the gold standard when it comes to pride in our law enforcement. Talking about it with our kids. Talking about the sacrifice, talking about these individuals we're honoring today, not by someone from Hillsborough, a corrections officer. No, it's Rory. It's LP. Know them by their names. Spend a little extra time instilling that with our kids and our families, 365 days a year. And with that, creates all of this gratitude, this sense of pride, this sense of, boy, we live in a state, in a place, in a country where we have so many amazing opportunities Not because we said so, but because so many other folks put themselves before themselves, put their duty before themselves. That's incredible. It really is. So we're blessed to be here in a state like New Hampshire. We're blessed to be here today where we can honor those and carry that message and carry their legacy and share a little bit of that sacrifice that these families don't just have today, for the rest of their lives. They're going to carry this sacrifice. That's a heavy burden. That's a heavy burden we ask of these families. Let's take some of it off their shoulders. And we do that by taking some of that responsibility onto ourselves. So it is a sad day. It's a solemn day. But let's take with us the best part of it, right? The best part of this whole message, of this whole thing. And remember that it ain't about us. It's about those that give everything, those that give more than themselves. Be that example in our communities. Carry that live free or die thing, that spirit of individual freedom. I love it. I get excited about it, as you can see. I do, about that opportunity. This is an amazing state. To be here today as governor, it's one of the greatest honors I have as governor. I know I always say governor, but now Senator Shaheen and Senator Hassan are here. They've stood here. They get it. It ain't about politics. It's just about community, right? Whatever we can do in our own ways, in our own fashion to carry that, I just think is so important. God bless you all. God bless you, the families that are here today. It's hard, but to be here today, to place that flower, it's more than just placing a flower. It means a lot to the state, and it reminds all 1.4 million of us what it's about, what that sacrifice is, and something that we can all carry even beyond the day. God bless you.
The New Hampshire Police Association Pipes and Drums have been performing musical selections for the memorial service faithfully for more than 2 decades now. The New Hampshire Police Association Pipes and Drums were formed following the tragic line-of-duty death of New Hampshire State Police Sergeant James Noyes in 1994. In December of that year, several dedicated individuals from various police departments joined together for what would be the band's first practice held in the city of Manchester. After many practice rehearsals, the band made their official debut right here, playing for the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Service in 1996. Since that time, this band has played at every police officer line-of-duty death funeral in the state of New Hampshire. It is now my great pleasure to introduce you to the New Hampshire Police Association Pipes and Drums. It is my pleasure this morning to represent the Memorial Association as the Master of Ceremonies for today's service. The New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Association is made up of a very small group of dedicated and hardworking individuals who work throughout the year to preserve and honor this beautiful memorial behind me and to ensure that the family and friends of our fallen heroes understand and believe that the New Hampshire law enforcement community will never forget the sacrifices these officers and their families have made. I'm very proud to call these members of the association my friends, and I want to thank each and every one of them for their efforts in keeping this monument and this annual memorial service continuing year after year. Today is the one day of the year when we invite the public to join us in remembering and honoring those sacrifices made by these law enforcement officers and corrections officers who died in the line of duty. We must also reflect on the contributions of all living law enforcement officers and corrections officers and pray for their continued safety. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the brave contributions of all of our fire and emergency medical responders who continue their commitment and sacrifice to serve the citizens of the state of New Hampshire and who place their lives on the line with us each day. Today, we honor as heroes the 55 New Hampshire law enforcement officers and corrections officers whose names appear on our New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Wall. I'm now going to create a bit of panic amongst the members of my association as I'm about to go off the podium book. And I'm going to share some personal thoughts with you, my own personal thoughts for those attending today. I've served in law enforcement for more than 3 decades now. And over that time, I've had many amazing experiences, and I've survived some very difficult days, as most of the officers sitting here today have as well. My number one priority as the chief of law enforcement has always been to get my team what they need to be successful, and I strive to do everything in my power to ensure their safety each and every day. I take great pride in the efforts that I put forth in those endeavors. I will always look back on my career and be equally proud of my work here serving on the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Association. It is truly an honor to serve and to memorialize the sacrifices made by these officers and you families. As a result of my role on this committee, I've had the opportunity to meet with many families and to discuss the loss of their loved one. I ask them to help me if they feel comfortable doing this, so that I can get to know their family member to help us to create a meaningful presentation for these officers when we add them to the memorial wall and include them on our roll of honor. These interviews end up being very similar in a couple of ways, and I want to share some of that with you. I start by asking the families to tell me something about their officer. I usually get things like he was a great person, he loved his job, he loved the people that he worked with. They will tell you that this person believed in public service, that they were really committed to helping people. I hear about the awards and accommodations they had received for outstanding service. All important and very helpful information. But if you really listen and watch these families, this starts out to be a very formal interview. They will sometimes fight back tears as they provide this information to me. These interviews just seem really structured to me, for a lack of a better way to describe that. But then we asked these families to tell us what these officers were really like off duty at home, what they liked to do in their spare time, what were their hobbies, what is your favorite memory. It's always at this point in the interview that you see these families start to relax. The information seems to come easier, sometimes so fast I can't write it down. Sometimes you even see some smiles as they describe times shared together with their loved one, or when they talk about things like the officer's sense of humor or a funny habit that they may have had that no one knew about. Those people dressed like me here today in a uniform all think alike to some degree. We all worry about making sure our families are going to be financially sound. Some of us work pretty hard, I think, to make sure our families will be financially secure in the event we are taken from them early. Well, that's a good thing. I'm not telling anyone to stop doing that. Please don't misunderstand me. Leaving families financially secure is very important. However, it is not what our families remember us for. If you were to ask any family member years after they lost their loved one what they remembered best about the person, You will not likely hear, well, he left us a great life insurance check, or his retirement benefits help us pay the bills. What you're going to hear is a favorite memory of theirs. And as the grieving process continues, I've seen smiles come to faces years afterwards as they share that memory with you. I've seen the moments of peace and comfort from these families when they're going to share those memories with you. Something like we camp together every summer, or he coached my Little League baseball team. I really enjoyed it when we just sat quietly and shared our thoughts with no interruptions. The memories are what will bring comfort to our families, and it may be the one thing that make them smile when they think of you in years to come. My message is simple, and this is it. Law enforcement is an incredibly demanding lifestyle. It's not a job, it is a lifestyle. The demands on our time can be very stressful and come at levels that are difficult, if not impossible, to manage. But we had all better find the time to make these memories with our families and friends, because it's the only thing we can leave them that our families might find some comfort in long after we've been taken from them. So men and women of law enforcement, find the time to do this, because I'm sure all of us can agree our families deserve at least that much from us. That's the end of my lecture. Thanks for tolerating that. This year we are adding 3 New Hampshire law enforcement heroes to our memorial wall. Manchester police officer Frank J. Dustin worked in law enforcement for approximately 21 years. According to news reports, back in 1918, Officer Dustin was known as one of the more popular and efficient men on the Manchester police force. Officer Dustin was born in Manchester in May of 1859. Before he became a police officer, he was a Manchester firefighter, where he was assigned as the driver of Engine 4, which was a horse-drawn wagon at that time. He remained a firefighter for a period of 12 years when he applied to become a Manchester police officer. For the next 21 years, Officer Dustin worked as a loyal police officer for the city of Manchester. Officer Dustin was one of the first patrol drivers for the police department. He was appointed driver of the horse patrol in January of 1897. On the evening of May 20th, 1918, Officer Dustin completed his assigned day shift of duties. While off duty that evening, Officer Dustin went to the Stark City Park to work in the cultivation of a war garden, as reported by the local newspaper. He was summoned to address an individual committing a crime within the park. And even though Officer Dustin was off duty at the time, he took up foot pursuit to stop this violator. It was during this foot pursuit Officer Dustin suffered a fatal heart attack and died at the scene. The suspect he was pursuing was later captured and arrested for his offenses. Officer Dustin's end of watch was May 20th, 1918. We were not able to locate any surviving family of Officer Dustin, but his name has been added to our memorial wall and will be read as part of today's Roll of Honor. Officer Rory Bohannon began what would be a lifetime of service by signing up for the United States Navy in 1981, where he served on the USS Emory S. Land. After completing his tour in the Navy, he joined the New Hampshire Department of Corrections in 1987, and he worked until the year 2000. In 1998, Officer Bohannon began working part-time as a police officer at Henniker and Hopkinton Police Departments. In 2008, he took a full-time position as a police officer for the Hillsborough Police Department. He then attended the full-time 123rd New Hampshire Police Academy, finishing number 1 academically in his class. While working as a Hillsborough police officer, he accepted the assignment of a school resource officer at Hillsborough Deering Schools. It was within this role as the resource officer that Officer Bohannon demonstrated his strengths in mentoring students, as well as ensuring their safety each and every day. Officer Bo, as he was known by most, was an active participant in the Special Olympics at the annual torch run. His family tells me Officer Bo enjoyed running and riding his bike to stay fit. He was a great family man, and he enjoyed gardening, fishing, and hiking when he was off duty. His wife, Rita Bohannon, proudly showed me a fire pit Officer Bowe had recently built, and she smiled when she was sharing times when she and Officer Bowe were sitting around that fire pit enjoying some quiet moments together. Officer Bohannon's wife, Rita, and their children, Tyler and Riley Greenlaw, along with Michelle Fitzgerald and Kirk and Sean Bohannon, all children of Officer Bowe, have all joined us here today with other family members. In May of 2022, Officer Bohannon was within 2 months of retirement from law enforcement. He reported to his duty station that day on May 10th at the Hillsborough Deering School, where he was stricken with a severe medical emergency and passed away while serving the community of Hillsborough. Officer Rory Bohannon's end of watch was May 10th, 2022. His name has been added to our memorial wall, and his name will be read today as part of our Roll of Honor. Corrections Officer Lawrence Prather began his service to the state of New Hampshire by accepting a full-time position as a New Hampshire Corrections Officer in 2017. He attended and graduated the 104th New Hampshire Corrections Academy. While his years of service were cut short, his impacts on his fellow officers and the Department of Corrections will live on for some time to come. In April of 2018, Officer Prather received a Team Commendation Award in honor of his service while responding to a significant disturbance event that occurred at the New Hampshire State Prison. In 2019, Officer Prather transitioned from the New Hampshire State Prison for Men to the Division of Rehabilitative Services. In this position, he would work closely with the residents as they re-entered community life. His colleagues describe him as a kind and very dedicated public servant who served as an inspiration to others. I was told he had a contagious sense of humor and that he was always in a good mood. I personally, when I saw the size of Lawrence Prather, was very happy he was on our team. LP, as his friends and family called him, devoted his life and career to helping the people of New Hampshire in any way that he could. He was a loyal officer to the Department of Corrections, and he was an inspiration to those that he worked with. Officer Prather's daughters, Cyan and Serena, who have joined us here today, shared with me that although he loved working out at the gym and was physically very powerful, he also loved to paint using airbrushes. LP loved to draw comic book characters, and that he was very good at this skill. The girls told me he loved the outdoors, and he really enjoyed riding his Harley motorcycle whenever he could find the time to ride. He sounds like a guy I would have liked. In January 25th of 2023, Officer Prather was working a double shift at the New Hampshire State Prison when he suffered a life-threatening medical emergency. In spite of heroic, life-saving efforts, including CPR, conducted by corrections officers and nursing staff, Officer Prather's end of watch came on January 25th, 2023. His name has been added to our memorial wall, and his name will be read today as part of our Roll of Honor. To the Bohannon family and the Prather family who have joined us here today, we want you to know you will always be in our thoughts and prayers. We are all so very sorry for your loss. We want you to know that your sacrifices and the sacrifices of your loved ones will never be forgotten. Before we proceed with the rest of the ceremony today, we want to express our appreciation to those who have made this day possible. On the inside cover of the 2023 program is a list of people and organizations who have all generously made financial contributions or have provided equipment or skills that all serve to make this ceremony possible each year. We would like to acknowledge all of their generosity and support. Most importantly, we'd like to acknowledge all of you who have attended along today with each survivor of our fallen heroes listed on the wall. We would like to always thank everyone for their continued assistance and contributions to the Memorial and Perpetual Care Fund. Without your generous contributions, we would not be here today to honor our fallen heroes. At this point, I would ask Chief Osgood of the Concord Police Department and Sheriff Brave, along with the floral assistants, to bring the wreath and the flowers forward to the front. We have recruited two very nice-looking young men to assist us for the first time this year in handing out the flowers to our families. These two young men also have a relative on the memorial wall. Now comes the most solemn moment that culminates today's program, the reading of the Roll of Honor and the placing of the flowers in the memorial wreath. As the names are read, a member of the family, if present, should stand and walk towards the center aisle. An escorting officer will come to your location and lead you to the floral display down the center aisle. There you will be given a red carnation to place into the wreath in memory of your loved one. For those family members who are unable to attend today, or for those who no longer have living relatives, an officer from that department or another department will step forward and place a flower in the wreath. I would then ask you to return to your seats by either of the end two aisles. After a flower is placed for each officer listed on the memorial wall, we will place white flowers. One flower will be placed in memory of all officers who died outside the line of duty. One flower will be placed for the New Hampshire officers who died in the line of duty outside of the state of New Hampshire. One flower will be placed in remembrance of those soldiers who continue to fight so bravely and have given up their lives to protect our freedoms. One flower will be placed in recognition of the daily sacrifice of all living officers. One flower will be placed in recognition of those officers who have been injured in the line of duty. One flower will be placed in recognition of all family survivors. And then for the first time this year, we're going to place one white carnation in recognition of our courageous canine partners serving throughout the state alongside New Hampshire law enforcement officers. Those of us working in law enforcement in the state of New Hampshire today serve under the direction of the New Hampshire Attorney General. New Hampshire's Attorney General, John Formella, was nominated by Governor Sununu and subsequently confirmed by our Executive Council members. Attorney General Formella was then sworn into the office on April 22nd of 2021, and he now leads the New Hampshire Department of Justice as the chief law enforcement official and prosecutor for the state. Attorney General Formella has a distinguished law career in New Hampshire. He has served as the legal counsel to the governor on all significant legal issues and litigation affecting the state of New Hampshire. His legal experience and expertise played a significant role in the development and implementation of New Hampshire's criminal justice reforms initiatives. Attorney General Formella came to us here in New Hampshire as a gifted attorney who is highly principled and committed to always do the right thing to the highest professional standards. New Hampshire is extremely fortunate to have such a knowledgeable and dedicated Attorney General, serving as the chief of law enforcement for the citizens of our state. It is now my distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you the New Hampshire Attorney General, John Formella, and ask him to join me here at the podium to read the Roll of Honor. There you are, my friend. Thanks.
Deputy Sheriff John S. Walker, Sr., Cheshire County Sheriff's Department. Officer George E. Prey, Dover Police Department. Officer Charles H. Doloff, Laconia Police Department. Deputy Sheriff Charles E. Smith, Stratford County Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Henry McAllister, Manchester Police Department. Patrolman Frank J. Dustin, Manchester Police Department. Inspector William M. Mower, Manchester Police Department. Assistant Marshal John McDonough, Dover Police Department. Officer Albert L. Colson, Exeter Police Department. Officer James Roach, Nashua Police Department. Sheriff Harry M. Levitt, Carroll County Sheriff's Department. Trooper Raymond Elliott, New Hampshire State Police. Chief Andrew T. Malloy, Lancaster Police Department. Trooper Harold B. Johnson, New Hampshire State Police. Chief Fred T. Toll, Colebrook Police Department. Officer Michael Latvis, Nashua Police Department. Lieutenant Ivan H. Hayes, New Hampshire State Police. Corrections Officer George F. Garceau, Hillsborough County Corrections. Officer Joseph H. Platt, Northumberland Police Department. Officer Edward C. Graziano, Nashua Police Department. Conservation Officer William O. Mooney, New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Conservation Officer Gary E. Waterhouse, New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Assistant Chief Louis A. Sheets, Farmington Police Department. Officer Robert F. Devoid, Berlin Police Department. Officer Dorman O. Wheelock, Berlin Police Department. Officer Jerome O. Pyatt, Gorham Police Department. Corrections Officer Robert C. Prescott, Rockingham County Department of Corrections. Conservation Officer James H. Clark, New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Chief Armand J. Roussel, Nashua Police Department. Chief Charles S. B. Knowles, Seabrook Police Department. Lieutenant Robert Hollis, Jr., Durham Police Department. Sergeant Paul G. Broder, Berlin Police Department. Officer Ralph W. Miller, Manchester Police Department. Trooper Richard F. Champy, New Hampshire State Police. Officer Donald R. Kowalski, Somersworth Police Department. Supervisor William E. O'Neill, Sr., Jaffrey Police Department. Chief James H. Collins, Hanover Police Department. Sergeant Thomas C. Kelly, Derry Police Department. Trooper Gary Parker, New Hampshire State Police. Trooper Joseph E. Gertie, New Hampshire State Police. Chief Ralph C. Brooks, Antrim Police Department. Deputy Sheriff Donald E. Callahan, Merrimack County Sheriff's Department. Sergeant James S. Noyes, New Hampshire State Police. Officer Melvin A. Ketty, East Kingston Police Department. Lieutenant Donald Eaton, Auburn Police Department. Trooper Leslie G. Lord, New Hampshire State Police. Trooper Scott Phillips, New Hampshire State Police. Officer Jeremy T. Sharon, Epsom Police Department. Officer Michael L. Briggs, Manchester Police Department. Corporal N. Bruce McKay III, Franconia Police Department. Chief Michael P. Maloney, Greenland Police Department. Officer Stephen J. Arkell, Brentwood Police Department. Staff Sergeant Jesse E. Sherrill, New Hampshire State Police. Officer Rory L. Bohannon, Hillsborough Police Department. Corrections Officer Lawrence C. Prather, New Hampshire Department of Corrections. One flower will be placed in memory of all officers who died outside the line of duty. One flower will be placed for the New Hampshire officers who died in the line of duty outside the state of New Hampshire. One flower will be placed in remembrance of those soldiers who continue to fight so bravely and have given their lives to protect our freedoms. One flower will be placed in recognition of the daily sacrifices of all living officers. One flower will be placed in recognition of those officers injured in the line of duty. One flower will be placed in recognition of all family survivors. And one flower will be placed in recognition of our courageous canine partners serving throughout the state alongside New Hampshire law enforcement officers.
Please stand now for the conclusion of the Roll of Honor ceremony with a rifle salute and the playing of taps and Amazing Grace. I'd like to ask Olivia to rejoin us here at the podium to sing today's closing hymn.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Please remain standing while Chaplain Gonslow asks for God's blessing.
Let us pray. As we close this ceremony, we ask that you, O Lord, comfort our families, friends, and comrades of our fallen. We remain grateful for our men and women who don the uniform and stand in the gap to protect and serve our communities. We are grateful for their devotion and dedication. We ask that you, Lord, bless and protect them. May you grant them wisdom and discernment for the situations that they will find themselves in. Watch over them and bless them. Bless the work of their hands. As we depart, we do so, offering this final blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you peace. Amen.
Chief, and if you and Sheriff Brave would like to return the star to the back. Josh and Zach, you did an outstanding job. Once again this year, the Memorial Committee has designed and created law enforcement memorial shirts, challenge coins, memorial lapel pins, and registration decals for number plates. These items were all developed to honor each officer, and all proceeds from the sale of these items are utilized in the upkeep and maintenance of our memorial wall, as well as supporting this annual ceremony. If you are interested in making a financial contribution or purchasing any of these items, please see a committee member in the reception area or at the luncheon reception after today's ceremony. I would also like to extend an invitation to each of you to join us for a light luncheon being provided at the Concord Community Center, located right up the street next to the Concord Police Department. And I want to leave you all with one final thought. Poor is the nation that has no heroes. Shameful is the nation that has heroes and forgets them. Thank you all for joining us today to honor our New Hampshire law enforcement fallen heroes. I will now ask the motor units, followed by the Police Association pipes and drums, to lead our honor guards in retreat.